Hello everyone and welcome to another top 5 records video, and today I'm going to be talking about the 10 best artists in the world of country music ever. Now, I want to do some more lists on country, and I'm also working on a top 50 of the best country albums. But if you have some tips, if you have some advices, some records you really think I should be listening to before I make that list, please leave a comment below because I want to expand my country collection and country universe because there are so many incredible artists out there. And the list I have today is a compilation of the big names, but also some of the names that were big in the industry, the real artist guys, which, you know, they can be so fascinating and there's so much to offer. So without further ado, the top 10 of best country artists ever. And I'm going to kick off with John Prine on number 10. Why John Prine? Well, this is a fascinating songwriter and performer. The thing is, his stories are very intimate, beautiful portraits of people who might not always get the recognition they deserve. He can get into the heads of his main characters and speak a language, a vocabulary, and closely connects them to chords and a certain diction. So emotionally, you are as a listener getting very, very close. He has a writing capacity that is very unique and bizarrely talented. Rolling Stone spoke of this album or they wrote that John Prine was the Mark Twain of country music. And at the time when I first started listening to this album, I really hadn't read Mark Twain. And so what did I do? I started reading Huckleberry Finn. I was completely amazed. It's an incredible book, and I do really understand the comparison because Mark Twain gives a vocabulary and a serious literary interest in a world and in people who don't often get that focus. And the same thing counts for John Prine, and he does it so well. There's a song on this album, for example, "Hello in There." Only just speaking about that title and how emotionally rich that song is and how deep it goes. It just gives me goosebumps. And not only this album, I mean, he's been making lots of records throughout his career, and even his final album is brilliant. So, John Prine on number 10. On number 9, an example of one of the people who did not find the biggest of audiences, but who was very important in the scene. And if you start listening, I'm sure you will love him. I'm talking about Billy Joe Shaver. Now, Billy Joe Shaver's career started when, during a gig in Texas, he had a chat with what he thought was Waylon Jennings. And Waylon Jennings said that he was impressed by his songs and that he should come over to Nashville to the recording studio. So Billy Joe Shaver did that. He got on the fast train and came to Nashville and went to the studio. And when he entered the studio, the people at the studio said, "What are you doing here?" "Well, I've got an appointment with Waylon Jennings." Waylon Jennings being one of the big stars in country. No, 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 not. Your name is nowhere. You don't have an appointment with Waylon Jennings. And he said, "I'm not leaving until I've spoken to Waylon Jennings." So it became tension, and he wouldn't leave. Now, after a while, Waylon Jennings walked out of the recording studio with some of the members of the Hells Angels that were helping him or friends or guarding him. And Billy Joe Shaver started shouting, "You promised me I could play you some of my songs." And Waylon Jennings didn't remember one thing of that. And Billy Joe Shaver he got angry. So these Hells Angels, they grabbed him and they were like, "Oh, we're going to throw you out. What do you think?" And then Waylon Jennings said, "Well, hold it for a minute. You're becoming a pain in the butt here. But if you can write songs the way you say, then you can stay. So we're going to sit here on this couch. You're going to grab your guitar. And you're going to play me the best song you ever wrote. And either it's that good that I have to record it, or you get thrown out of the door. But if it's that good that I have to record it, you're gonna play me another song. So Billy Joe Shaver did it. He sat down, he grabbed his guitar, he played him a song. And it was that brilliant that Waylon Jennings had to record it. So he had to play him another one. And also that song was that good that the Waylon Jennings had to record it. This continued until Waylon Jennings recorded the album, one of his biggest hits, Honky Tonk Heroes, with apart from one song, was entirely written by Billy Joe Shaver. That's the kind of level of songwriting this man has. Some of those songs turned up on this album because friends of Waylon Jennings obviously heard this story, and someone like Kris Kristofferson got interested, who produced this album, the first Billy Joe Shaver album. And the lyrics here are just incredible. A song like I've been to Georgia on the fast train. It's not as emotionally rich as John Prine, but Billy Joe Shaver can write lyrics and put you into his own mind. And with an incredible diction. I mean, I've been to Georgia on the fast train, honey. I wasn't born no yesterday. I got a good Christian raising and an 8th grade education. Y'all needing to be treating me this way. You can write stuff like that. It's just incredible. And also his voice. There's this beautiful, high, raw, sincere quality to his voice. Also, the accent, the diction. He has a world living in his voice, and that's just so amazing. A friend of mine who is uninterested in music, he's a cameraman, and the two of us work often together for films, for documentaries. We were in the car, and we were having a discussion about how convincing an artist can be. He was talking about Public Enemies and Enemy, and the way these guys were not as tough as they are rapping about. And then I put on a song by Billy Joe Shaver on the radio, one of his last songs, Wacko from Waco, which has the lyric, I'm Wacko from Waco, there ain't no doubt about it. I shot a man there in the head, but can't talk much about it. He was trying to shoot me, but it took too long to aim. Anybody in my place would have done the same. I'd be damned if I don't, damned if I do. I'm Wacko from Waco. I'm telling you the truth. Now, that cameraman said, now, that is songwriting. You know, I mean, we're both interested in storytelling. You know, that's our main focus. And he was in awe. He said, this man can write a story and he can sing it the way that I almost believe he shot a man. I mean, obviously he didn't, but I want to believe him. He's that good. And I said, that's the thing. Billy Joe Shaver comes from a place where his stories are true. And he says, no. Billy Joe Shaver did not shoot a man in Waco. And I got my phone out. Not so long ago, Billy Joe Shaver was in a fight, and it was this Western-like situation that it was him or me, that kind of stuff. And people like, I believe, not Robert Redford, a different big actor, and Willie Nelson, they went to court and to say something about his good nature. But actually, Billy Joe Shaver comes from the country and the Western world that he's singing about. His records are completely authentic. They are gorgeous. One of my favorite songs of his I'm still trying to find on vinyl, and it's I'm Gonna Live Forever. I'm gonna cross that river, I'm gonna live tomorrow now. You're gonna wanna hold me, just like you've always told me, we're gonna live tomorrow now. Which is about his son, who was a big time guitar player. He toured with big bands, and he also had a drug habit, so he lost him at a very young age. And if you put on Live Forever, open a new tab. First, finish watching this video, please. But open a new tab and put on Billy Joe Shaver, Live Forever. It is just stunning. Live, he would not always perform with the best of bands, but even in the cheaper situations, this man is fully convincing, brilliant, and it is authentic and good because there is a core of brilliant songwriting and a truly convinced vocalist who will draw you into a new world and into his emotions. is incredible. On number 9, Billy Joe Shaver. On number 8, well, it's a very tiny step from Billy Joe Shaver to Waylon Jennings. And what I'm holding here is actually Honky Tonk Heroes, the album that, for the most part, was written by Billy Joe Shaver. Only We Had It All was written by someone else. Now, I'm holding this up because it's my favorite Waylon Jennings album, but this man has created so many more albums. Waylon Jennings was one of the crickets. So, and that's what you hear. This man was born and raised into the professional music culture. The way his full voice just takes over the room, his playing, he is a big presence musically. He's there. He's the cowboy. He's the John Wayne of country songs, of country music. And he has been so prolific. He has made so many incredible songs. A master. I mean, if I just look at this track list, the atmosphere that just bounces off songs like Honky Tonk Heroes and Old Five and Dimers Like Me. He has a calm, a relax in his voice. Omaha, you've been weighing heavy on my mind. Yet also he's very open about Billy Shaver's involvement on this album. As a matter of fact, here's Shaver and here's Jennings. Yet again, there are so many great albums. 1 or 2 years before this, there was a release of an album which was, I believe, produced by Bernie Grundman, or at least later on in the studio. Bernie Grundman did some work on it, which has Dylan covers by Waylon Jennings. I mean, Waylon Jennings playing Bob Dylan, it's as good as you might hope it is. So on number 8, Waylon Jennings. On number 7, Hank Williams. Now, Hank Williams is the big guy. The one that, he's not per se the one that started all. Of course, country is older than Hank Williams. And Hank Williams was very young when he died. I believe he was about 26. I mean, he didn't even make it to the 27 club. But he was the original outlaw country guy, having problems with drinking, being thrown out of I believe some of the biggest and most important venues. But if you listen to the capacities of this man, if you listen to something like uh, um, as a matter of fact, all of these songs. On this one, I Saw the Light, Moving On Over, Lovesick Blues, Mind Your Own Business, I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry, Howling at the Moon. I mean, there are so many incredible songs, but just his vocal capacity, the yodeling, the I got a feeling that I'm blue, oh Lord, and I don't know what to do. Well, I can only um, put it out. I mean, because what I do is a parody. I'm not trying to parody him. I'm trying to do my best, but this man was such an incredible vocalist, technically, emotionally, a master in his craft. So on number 7, Hank Williams. On number 6, this is again one of the Highwaymen. We've already had Waylon Jennings as an official member of the Highwaymen. I believe Billy Joe Shaver joined them for a short while. At number 6, we have Kris Kristofferson. Kris Kristofferson has perhaps even a more beautiful start of a career, better story than Billy Joe Shaver. Well, it's up to you. Kris Kristofferson started working in Nashville in the studios as a janitor, and his first day on the job I might first start off that he was a very intelligent man, and he worked in the army. He was a helicopter pilot. I believe during his time at school, it was already known that he was highly intelligent. So, but he wanted to work in Nashville. So after his time in the army, he was already in his late 20s. He started working in the studios, and his first day on the job as a janitor was cleaning the studio where Bob Dylan was recording Blonde on Blonde. So first day on the job, he was cleaning up the cigarette butts of Bob Dylan. I would do that. I would do that. On the Blonde on Blonde sessions, I would definitely do that. Yet he had a greater value than just that. During his work in the studio, he got to talk to Johnny Cash. And he asked Johnny Cash, I really want to record songs. I believe I can write some songs. I believe I'm a good writer. And Johnny Cash said, I'll help you with a contract. But first, you need to sober up. So Kris Kristofferson, he sobered up. And to prove Johnny Cash his new sober value, he got into a helicopter and landed it in the backyard of Johnny Cash. Now, the legend goes that Johnny Cash saw that and said, Yep, you're sober. And he signed him a contract and made sure that he could have a first album. But reality is that when he landed in the backyard, Johnny Cash was not at home. So Johnny Cash heard that he had landed a helicopter in his backyard. Nevertheless, Johnny Cash was impressed and recorded Sunday Morning Coming Down, and that was immediately rewarded with the best country song of that year. It's not only Sunday Morning Coming Down, which is an incredible song. Kris Kristofferson just keeps on writing and writing incredible songs. I'm sure you've heard Me and Bobby McGee in the performance by Janis Joplin, which is a great song. Willie Nelson did an entire album with Kris Kristofferson songs. But listening to Kris Kristofferson perform Kris Kristofferson himself is my preferred sound, because he has, in the studio, so much perfect control. And it sounds so good. His records sound incredible. Well, just for example, this album, it has one of my all-time favorite songs, Epitaph, Black and Blue. He was in a short relationship with Janis Joplin. And after she passed away, he recorded and wrote that song, Epitaph, Black and Blue. Now, if you've got that tab open for I'm Gonna Live Forever by Billy Joe Shaver, the next best song after that you should listen to is Epitaph, Black and Blue by Kris Kristofferson. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about him. I'm going to do a top 5 video on Kris Kristofferson on his birthday. So stay tuned to the channel to find out more about Kris Kristofferson in a couple of weeks. Kris Kristofferson on number 6. On number 5. Well, I'm in awe of all of these guys, and not only guys, of course. This is one of those artists that changed my life. Townes Van Zandt. Story goes that Townes Van Zandt was like a troubadour, traveling from honky tonk places to restaurants and bars and playing his songs there. And there are gorgeous recordings of that. There is this 1978 recording of him in the Old Quarter in Houston, in which you can hear a guy coming into a bar and playing you the songs of the road, the songs of his life. But it's so much more than just some songs of the road. It's as if in the work of Townes Van Zandt lie the story of America, but not the story of big, wealthy, successful America. Story of people who, just like him, had troubles, had problems with alcohol. And Townes Van Zandt had some problems with alcohol. It's a close, sincere, and raw description of the world. And although his songs might be the saddest one in this video, there is an element of hope in there. He wrote the hit Pancho and Lefty, which I'm sure you've heard. On this album there is If I Needed You, which has sadness, but a lot of hope as well. His lyrics are perhaps the most personal to me here, because he is so skillful with stories, with people, with setting the right tone, finding the right nuance, the right ambiguity, but also he's a poet. He is an incredible poet. The first song he wrote, and he had never written a song before, was Waiting Around to Die. Now, open a third tab and look up Townes Van Zandt, Waiting Around to Die. Lyrics are just stunning. For example, there's this verse. Um, one time, friends I had. One time, friends I had a ma. I even had a pa. He hit her with a belt once because she cried. He told her to take care of me, and we headed back to Tennessee. It's just uh, so we went there to waiting around to die. And then at the final, he tells the story of his life, and it's now I'm out of prison. I got me a friend at last. He don't cheat or steal or lie. His name is Codeine, and it's the nicest thing I've seen. Together we're gonna wait around to die. Together we're gonna wait around to die. Stunning lyricist, but melodically also incredible. There are songs there like the Silver Ships of Andaline, big, epic. This man didn't only write small, intimate country songs. He could write big epics. There's this album of his, Our Mother the Mountain. It's just stunning. It's just sincere beauty. He's one of the great, big, brilliant geniuses of the world of country music. Later this year, I'm going to do a top five on Townsend Zandt, and I'm going to do more videos on Townsend. I'm going to do some comparison of his records. I'm hunting down some of the originals. They're tough to find, but these records are so rich musically, vocally. The amount of detail that lies there is just so stunning. I'm gonna go the extra mile. I gotta listen to it. So on number five, Townsend Zandt. On number four, perhaps country's biggest star, Johnny Cash. Now Johnny Cash has this incredible career. There are so many interesting moments throughout, starting off in the late 50s when he was touring with people like Jerry Lee Lewis and Elvis Presley. Now, Johnny Cash did not really make rock and roll, although there's in the country also a rock and roll element. And he's clearly a tough guy. I mean, he's the man in black. And the way he's writing about prison. For example, on this record, there's a song, Folsom Prison Blues. Um, I try to quote, when I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. But I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. When I hear that whistle blowing, I lay my head and I cry. Oh, this is a tough guy. And then later on in the 60s, his comeback was in with live recordings in prisons in San Quentin and Folsom Prison. So he had a bad boy image, and then after a while, he became a good Christian American TV host, doing really good shows. I mean, with incredible guests. Then but constantly remaining a friend of the Outlaws or part of the Highwaymen. In the 80s, he started touring with the Highwaymen, and in the 90s, late 90s, he reinvented himself by doing covers. Covers produced by Rick Rubin, known as the American Recordings. Very dry, very direct, but he tells you the story of America through the songs of others. Most well known is Hurt, but you can put any of these albums on. When he covers One, when he covers Bridge Over Troubled Water, when he works together with Billy Joe Shaver and does I See a Darkness, he is encapturing so many years of country music, and he adds his own story. He adds his own dimension. And this is somebody who for such a long time was true to what he loved doing, make music, and he was stunning. Number four, Johnny Cash. At number three, the first woman on this list. Well, who else could it be than Dolly Parton? Dolly Parton. I think Dolly Parton is often underrated as a songwriter. She has the incredible capacity, and that's what I am mostly drawn to with these country artists. They can tell stories. They can travel from one place to the other, and in 2 or 3 minutes, you can trust them because they can tell you a story. And Dolly Parton is specifically good in getting an ambiguous story across in an emotional and understandable way. For example, the song Jolene. which is not about a woman who, because she assumes her husband might be having an affair or is dreaming about another woman, she is not gonna kick him or kick her. She's gonna plead. She tries to solve the issue with fragility. It's not the most common solution to the problem like Beyonce does with Jolene, but she will get you involved. She will get you on board with her more ambiguous story. She will show you a side of America that you might not have seen or that you might have been judgmental of. And that is her incredible quality. Also, that, but she can also be just a very good pop songwriter, writing emotional ballads. I Will Always Love You. That's incredible. That song's incredible. Here You Come Again. That's incredible pop songwriting. She is one of the great pop songwriters ever. And I'm gonna keep it short in this list because, just as with Kris Kristofferson, I'm gonna do a Dolly Parton top 5 video in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned to my channel if you want to hear more about Dolly Parton. On number 3. On number 2, this is going to be an odd one out. But hear me out. In 1968, RCA made 2 of the most biggest and promising contracts for the 2 most interesting names in Nashville at that time. Both of them signed. The first name is Elvis Presley. Second name is Mickey Newbury. And Mickey Newbury is going to be the best artist you have not heard about. And if you have heard about him, congratulate, because you are a lucky person and you're a happy person. At least I'm a happier person because I know of Mickey Newbury. Why this high? Well, everybody in American music scene, almost everybody, adored him. And there are few artists who have been covered as many times as Mickey Newbury. From Frank Sinatra to Willie Nelson to Nick Cave to Tom Jones, everybody covered this man. Elvis Presley covered him. American Trilogy was his song. It's a compilation and with a judgment made by Mickey Newbury. And all that is well and done, I mean, everybody heard his quality. But nothing beats listening to the man himself. Now, before I start to tell you why he is brilliant, I might explain to you why he's not that well known. As a matter of fact, I had some chats with his wife about this. I wanted to find out more. I mean, I was so intrigued, but there was just this very specific group of people who loved him. The Nashville scene, guys like Kris Kristofferson, Willie Nelson. As a matter of fact, all of these guys, they adored him. Just about a week or two ago, I saw this special, which was from the 80s, in which Waylon Jennings organized a television show called The Door's Always Open, about a place in Nashville where young artists could come by and they could always play their songs. So they had about 20 of the biggest names in country scene in that room. They also invited Mickey Newbury over. And everybody would play some songs and they'd be yapping around and making a jolly time and being typical, like either typical macho man or typical funny guys. And there was one guy in the room who was not into that. He was not into forcing a more cowboy-like image to himself. But when he got the guitar to play a song, everyone felt dead silent. Because they know his songwriting. They heard his songs. They know that all the radio stations love him, but just couldn't sell it to the audience. They know that the critics had heard the essential, perhaps best, most interesting composer of the country world in him, or they had heard it themselves, what this man was capable of. And he got the guitar and very nuanced, very poignant. He played and sang, and he did not force anything. He was in control of his voice and his guitar, and it was the best song of the entire show. The best one. And not only then was he the best one, but the thing is, everybody knew he was good, but he wanted to make it on his own terms. He produced his own albums. He started his own studio because he was not happy with the sound of the studio in Nashville. Now, if you don't go along with a system, you're going to have a bad time. I worked with somebody who produced together with Mick Jagger. And Mick Jagger told him the next story. I quote Mick Jagger in this regard. He said, "Do you know why the Beatles were bigger? Because the Beatles collaborated with the big guys." That's the same thing for Mickey Newbury. It was all on his own terms. He did not like to play live too often because he thought that would harm the authenticity. If you play it too much, it might not become as strong as the first time. And he would work from his studio, but from his studio, he was the Frank Zappa of country. He tells the story of America. He makes landscapes. He draws you in to a magical sound world with sound effects, with melodies, with compositions, with stories. This album, together with the two albums that came after this, and I should know, the second album is with an American Trilogy on there, and the third album, these are masterpieces. I'm going to do a video on Mickey Newbury and go into full detail. But he tells of a journey. He tells of lost love in a manner that you can almost taste the American landscape. This man is a genius. Do yourself a favor. Listen to Frisco, Mabel, Joy. That's the album I was talking about. That's the one with an American Trilogy. Or this one, Looks Like Rain. Looks Like Rain is something. I mean, just the moment I found this and I put it on, I've been coming back to this record for the last couple of years because there's nothing quite like it. A masterpiece. And number 2, Mickey Newbury. And number 1, Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson just recorded his 75th album, and it's good. He has turned 91, and throughout so many decades, he has remained relevant. He is one of the most incredible voices in the world of music whatsoever. An incredible writer, an incredible performer. There was this moment, I believe it was at the MTV Unplugged, but correct me if I'm wrong, it was at least on American television, where they asked Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash to play together. Now, Johnny Cash was rather old, so he did have a guitar in his hands, but he could not really play. And Willie Nelson, in the late 90s, in the late 90s, so he was in his 70s, late 60s, he was at the highlight of his playing, so he could play the guitar as if it sounded like he was playing for two and not for any other guy, for Johnny Cash. He played it like that. So Johnny Cash just had to mimic. Willie Nelson has that capacity. And he's a number 1 because I cannot name any artist who for so many years stayed true to music and was a truly incredible writer. And writer, performer, and who has changed the world of country music so much. I'm holding one of my favorite all-time albums here, Red-Headed Stranger. Red-Headed Stranger is a moment where Willie Nelson chose to tell stories and tell it his own way. And although the production company thought that they had sent him a demo because it's raw and it has a certain dryness to it, gorgeous dryness, they thought, no, this is the demo, record the real thing. It wasn't the commercial sound. And Willie Nelson said no. And that was the moment he made a bridge between country music and the pop rock scene. and he would be performing at pop rock venues as well, while remaining true to country. I have an uncle, and he's at the moment he was 70 years old. He had not enjoyed a single song in his life. Seriously. His mother didn't like music. She would turn off, that's my grandma. She didn't like music. She would turn off the radio when she was home alone because she didn't like that noise. And my uncle inherited the same thing. He didn't like music. Please put it off. He did not like parties where they had music. And then I had my birthday, and I took this album with me. And he said, "Oh no, you're gonna put on records." So yeah, I'm gonna put on records. So you can stay. I'll give you another beer, but I'm gonna put on Willie Nelson. He hadn't heard of Willie Nelson. I put on Red Headed Stranger. And you know what happened? The man started tapping his toes. He started humming along to the melodies, to the harmonica. And once side one was over, he was the first to say, "Can you play the second side? This is the first time in my life that I've enjoyed music." Well, that's the power of Willie Nelson. On number one. So I'm curious, what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave a comment below and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!